Today we're going to talk about President Biden's decision to allow U.S. missiles to be fired into Russia by Ukraine.
He's greenlit for Ukraine. The ATACMS, right?
Right. ATACMS is the acronym for Advanced Military Rocket Technology. ATACMS is a long-range, guided missile that really gives the military a lot of firepower. It's really a system being fired from a dedicated launcher.
I mean, allowing strikes on Russian soil, that's gotta be a big deal.
Well, yeah, huge. It kind of throws a wrench in things, The U.S. has been walking this tightrope, trying to support Ukraine, but without, poking the bear too hard.
Yeah.
Allowing strikes on actual Russian territory, yeah, that definitely blurs the lines.
Yeah, for sure. It makes you think about that whole INF treaty thing back in 2019. Remember when the U.S. pulled out? That was all about limiting these kinds of missiles. Feels like we're moving away from arms control, and that's a bit worrying.
The Army Tactical Missile System, ATACMS, would have been considered a weapon covered by the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces, INF, treaty, as it is a ground-launched missile with a range falling within the treaty's limitations. It could reach 500 to 5,500 kilometers.
It's like, imagine two rival teams, right? And they agree not to use their best players. That was kind of the INF treaty. But then the U.S. leaves, and now with these ATACMs, it's like both sides are bringing out their heavy hitters, and the stakes super high.
Okay, but before we go too far down that road, maybe we should take a step back. For folks who might not be totally familiar, what exactly are ATACMS? What's the difference between them and those HIMARS Ukraine's already been using?
So ATACMS stands for Army Tactical Missile System. Basically, they're ballistic missiles, which means they have a really long reach, much longer than HIMARS. We're talking something like 300 kilometers, almost 3 times that of HIMARS. And the thing is, they're known for being super accurate. They can take out very specific things.
Oh, wow. So, what kind of things? Give me an example.
Airfields, those big ammo dumps, command centers. You hit those, you really mess up Russia's ability to fight.
So that range, that's what everyone's freaking out about, huh? Ukraine could hit stuff deep inside Russia, not just stuff right on the border. But here's the thing, and this is what I find interesting. Nobody seems to know the exact rules for how Ukraine can use these ATACMS. It's all kind of hush-hush.
Yeah, that's adding to the tension for sure. Is Ukraine just limited to hitting targets in that Kursk region right on the border, or can they go further? Nobody really knows, and that makes everyone nervous, probably even Putin himself.
It makes you wonder, is the U.S. doing this on purpose? Keeping Russia guessing? Or are they just making it up as they go along?
It's a good question. I mean, is Biden trying to send a message, but without fully committing to one specific plan? And you got to think about the timing of all this. A new Trump presidency is just weeks away, and he's made it pretty clear. He wants this war over, and he's not crazy about all the aid we're sending Ukraine.
So Biden's trying to give Ukraine a boost before Trump takes over. Maybe give them a better position in any future talks?
Could be. It's like setting the chessboard a certain way before a new player sits down, someone with a totally different style.
Okay, but we've got a lot to unpack here. Biden's motives, what this means on the ground for the war, and then you've got the whole world watching this unfold. So where should we start? What's the biggest question we need to answer first?
Well, I think we need to figure out what pushed Biden to this decision.
On October the 28th, Matt Murphy reported for the BBC that North Korean troops had been sent to fight for Russia and were in Kursk. That had to be a large reason for this decision.
Some people are saying they could be a total game changer, give Ukraine the upper hand, maybe even turn the tide.
Yeah, and some are saying they'll be able to hit Russia where it hurts, really disrupt their whole war machine.
Yeah, I was reading about that. They could hit those supply lines, make Russia move all their ammo dumps and command centers further back, basically stretch them thin, right? And that could give Ukraine a chance to take back some land, gain some ground. Think that's realistic?
I mean, it's possible, but we got to be realistic too. I don't think it's going to be that simple. A lot depends on how many missiles the U.S. actually gives them and what the rules are, what they're allowed to hit. Even with this longer range, they might still have restrictions.
Right. It's not like they've got free reign to just bomb anywhere in Russia. And even if they could, does that mean they automatically win?
That's the thing, right? Wars aren't just about blowing stuff up. It's about strategy, who's got better morale, all the logistics. And let's be honest. Russia, they've shown they can adapt. Even when they get caught off guard, they usually figure out a way to counterattack.
So even if ATACMS make things tough for Russia at first, it doesn't mean Ukraine will just, win overnight.
Exactly. It could just drag things out. We could end up with this long, drawn-out war. Nobody wins. Everyone just gets worn down.
Yeah, war of attrition, right?
And another scary scenario is not World War III, but another Vietnam. We don't want to go down that road again.
It would be horrible. Imagine more suffering, people having to flee their homes, the economy just getting destroyed.
And we can't forget about the rest of the world either. This isn't happening in a vacuum. It's already messing with energy prices, food costs, and who knows what else.
Absolutely, it's a global crisis. This thing could completely change how the world works if it keeps going. And speaking of the world, we got to talk about how everyone else is reacting to this whole ATAC CMS thing. It's all over the news. Everyone's got an opinion.
It's a mess out there. Russia is obviously furious, saying the U.S. is just adding fuel to the fire, getting directly involved.
Yeah, you can hear the anger coming out of Moscow for sure. Some of them are even throwing around the World War III talk, which is a bit much. But you got to remember how Putin sees this whole thing. For him, this is all about defending Russia. Like NATO is the aggressor, the West is out to get him. So giving Ukraine these missiles that can hit Russia, that just feeds into his whole narrative, makes him look strong to his people.
And it gives him an excuse to get even more aggressive, right? Like, see? I told you they were out to get us.
Exactly. And remember those threats he made before about giving long-range weapons to other countries if NATO lets Ukraine hit Russia? Well, now he might actually do it. That's a whole new level of dangerous.
It's scary stuff. And it's like we're stuck in this impossible situation. We want to help Ukraine, but we also don't want to start World War III. And what about the other countries? It seems like some of them are happy about Biden's decision, while others are kind of freaking out.
It's a mixed bag, that's for sure. Those NATO countries that are right next to Russia, like Poland and the Baltic states, they're all for it. They see this as a way to protect themselves, to stop Russia from getting any bigger ideas. To them, a strong response is the only way to stop Putin.
But then you have other countries like Slovakia who are like, whoa, hold on. This could backfire big time.
Yeah, they're worried about what Russia will do. Will Putin overreact? Will they get dragged into a war they're not ready for? It's a valid concern.
It seems like everyone's trying to figure out what to do, but there are no easy answers. Biden might be shaking things up in the war. Russia's mad and probably planning something, and everyone else is scrambling to react. And then you've got Trump coming in, and who knows what he'll do.
Yeah, he's the wild card in all of this. He could completely change the game. We know he wants this war over fast, and he's not a fan of helping Ukraine. But now they can hit targets inside Russia. So will he use that to his advantage somehow, or will it make it harder for him to get the deal he wants?
It's impossible to say what he'll do, but whatever he does, it's going to have a huge impact on the war, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah, for sure. How he deals with Putin, whether he keeps sending aid to Ukraine, all of that will decide what happens to them.
It's like we're at this fork in the road, and each path leads to a totally different future. And the choices people make, especially the people in power, those choices are going to decide which path we all end up on. So we've covered a lot of ground here. This whole situation is just, well, it's complicated, to say the least.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. It's hard to know what's going to happen next, but I guess we can try to figure out some possible scenarios.
Right, like what are the different ways this could all play out? Best case, worst case, and everything in between.
Okay, so let's start with the best case scenario, which I think is what a lot of people are hoping for. These ATACMS, they actually work, like really well.
You mean Ukraine actually manages to, win?
Yeah.
I know it's a long shot, but how would that even happen? What would that look like?
Well, imagine Ukraine uses those missiles to, totally disrupt Russia's ability to fight. Hit their supply lines, blow up their ammo dumps, force them to pull back their troops and equipment, makes it way harder for them to keep attacking.
Okay, that makes sense. But would that be enough to make Putin, give up?
Yeah.
He seems pretty set on getting what he wants no matter what.
It's true, Putin's a tough one. But even he has to have a breaking point. If the war starts costing too much, too many soldiers dying, the economy tanking, everyone in the world mad at him, he might have to reconsider. A strong counterattack from Ukraine plus those 8 ICMS. That could be enough to push him towards a deal, one that's actually good for Ukraine.
All right, that's the optimistic view. But let's be real. Things could also go south, right? What if the ATACMS don't work as planned? Or what if they make Russia even angrier?
Yeah, that's the worry, isn't it? If Putin thinks those missiles are a real threat to Russia's survival, or if they cause a lot of damage, he might do something crazy, something unpredictable. We've already heard him threaten to retaliate. And not just against Ukraine.
He's talking about giving those long-range missiles to other countries, right?
Right.
That's scary stuff. This whole thing could blow up way beyond Ukraine.
Exactly. And then there's the risk of things just accidentally escalating. Like in a war, it's chaotic, right? One small mistake, and suddenly NATO's fighting Russia. Nobody wants that.
No, that's a nightmare scenario. But, okay, even if we don't end up with World War III, there's still a good chance this just drags on and on.
Right, sadly. Yeah, that might be the most likely outcome. Both sides are dug in deep, and they both think they can win. A long war would be terrible for Ukraine, but it would hurt the whole world too.
And I'm sure that's reminding a lot of people of Vietnam.
So is there any hope for peace? Like any way this ends without one side completely destroying the other?
Well, I think we have to believe in diplomacy. Even when things are this bad, talking is still important. Russia and the West, they might not like each other, but they still talk. And there are groups like the UN who are trying to find a peaceful solution.
So even with all the threats and the military stuff, there's still a chance they can work this out.
There's always a chance. It won't be easy, of course. Everyone will have to compromise. But it's the only way to get a real lasting peace.
Well, that's good to hear, at least. I think we all need a little bit of hope right now. This whole situation is messy, it's unpredictable, it's scary.
Yeah, there are a lot of unknowns, but one thing's for sure, the decisions people make, especially the leaders of countries. Those decisions will determine what happens next.
That's a powerful thought. This whole ACAS CMS thing has taken us deep into the weeds of military strategy, politics, all of it.
We've looked at what could happen, the good and the bad. We've talked about the human cost of war, the ethical questions, everything.
And I think the big takeaway here is that we all need to stay informed, stay engaged, keep talking about these things because they affect all of us.
Absolutely. This isn't just something happening over there. This war, these decisions, they shape the world we live in.
That's a great point to end on.
Thanks for listening, everyone. And remember, if we can't have peace in the world, we can have peace in our little corner of it.